Hi, genius. I think I'm recording. Yep. All right, guys. Thank you, woman. Let's talk about ego and analytical mind. Hi. Come on, it's showtime. Okay. So we're going to separate the ego and the analytical mind. Okay, and then we will talk about how they operate in our life. So I think I'll talk about the analytical mind first. So what happened is that we, let's say, in a form of a story, that there's this giant pure consciousness and pure love at the frequency of Planck constant, where it is everywhere at all time and everybody, everything, right? All the unlimited quantum possibilities, and it's just all wave and energy, right? And then it wants to experience itself, wants to explore itself, call it infinity, call it whatever. And part of it, a portion of it, slows down in frequency. And when it does, it goes down to density, right? So the frequency in one part of it, so a very small part, 0.001% actually, which is our hologram. And this is the lowest frequency that our senses can experience. And when it collapsed to the blueprint level, right? And that's where the Big Bangs happened, right? Generating universes. We're not going to get into multiple universes conversation yet, because that's not relevant to our journey yet anyway. So there's the Planck constant level, then it turns into a blueprint level, and then the Big Bang happens. And then the hologram occurs. And when that happens, and then we become conscious of who we are as humans, as species, right? But we're going to talk about humans only. We now experience separation. And in order for us to function in this separation field, we need certain tools. And critical thinking is a tool that is very useful for us in this lifetime, right? Strategic thinking, paying bills, eating, all that, just critical thinking of certain things that we run into. Very useful, right? Managing friendships, relationships, careers, businesses, investments, taking care of the world. And think of it as a game. Think of it as you started to play a game with yourself, okay? Because you're all there is. And you want to experience and play with this infinite power that you have. So you collapse into a hologram, or a part of you, and you can now experience different people, different things, and you want to experience this game. So you generate a video game, okay? And now what is the goal of a video game? No video game is fun without challenges, right? Have you ever played a game on easy mode where you're just winning and winning and winning and nobody can hurt you and you have armor? That's such a boring game. So imagine this. The consciousness collapses itself into, different universes, big bangs, the entire thing, and it wants to explore itself. Just plays the game with itself. So this game of the universe, what is the goal here? To get back to source. To get back to pure consciousness. And if you study quantum physics, they have proven that this entire universe is going to explode into nothingness, and it will all go back to wave and energy. So do you see a full picture, a full circle, how this game works out? So we were pure consciousness and pure love. We explode out into the Big Bang, evolution, all this stuff happens, and we have this journey. We don't have to become enlightened to go back to the pure consciousness, except we will be sleepwalking all through life, and we won't be able to enjoy the gifts that this life, this game, has just hiding in plain sight. Because we have the critical thinking mask and we have the ego, and those two things keeps us away from realizing who we are. But guess what? Think of both of those things as obstacles. So if none of those were there, you're on easy mode, and then critical thinking comes in and you're on medium mode, and now there's an ego and now you're on hard mode. and and everybody in the world most of the time is on hard mode. Now there are people that are born and they have always known things consciously where they didn't want to be part of the normal society and they were just enlightened from the beginning, right? Their hearts were open, their energy centers were already blessed. Yeah, there were anomalies, yes. But for the most part, we are all in this hard mode. That is why it is so hard to pop and have a mystical experience initially. But the moment it happens, it's like you're no longer falling off the bike and you're like, wait a minute, that was so easy. But it wasn't easy when you were falling. It didn't look easy, it didn't feel easy, but it happened to be easy, right? So I'm trying to, by the way, I just thought about this and I turned the camera on because I saw the Aman's text. And I'm like, let me talk about it. And now on a whim, I'm just creating a story here. Bear with me while I get my characters in order. So we all came down here, and now the medium mode is the critical thinking, and then the hard mode is the ego. Now the critical thinking part is what we need to function properly, right? When we are strategizing, when we're doing things, like I'm creating working on with Cole on the website and the app, and I'm working with Paria on certain things, and I'm working with Mohammed from Bangladesh on certain things, and there's different other things that I'm working on. And I need time. I have to manage my career. I have to manage my time. I have to make sure I work out. I have to make sure I eat. I'm a single parent. I have to make sure my baby's fed and he's fed. So critical thinking is very important, and for you to deconstruct problems. And all of these things are useful, including people management, conflict management. But what happens? Okay, so now the downside of the critical thinking is you can't stop it sometimes. And you're thinking about things when you're in a meditation, and you can't get rid of it so you can see through the veil, right? There's two veils, right? And you can't get rid of the one veil so you can get to the medium mode and go to the hard mode and figure that out. And once you pop it open, and now you're done, right? Now you just get out of space and time all over again. You get to see yourself again. You get to explore the 99% of your existence again. You realize how powerful you are, how magnetically magical you are. And the critical thinking part is what I help you guys to get rid of by focusing on expanding your awareness, focusing on convergent focus and divergent focus. So what is happening all of a sudden when you're focusing on multiple energy centers, when you are focusing on squeezing the pelvic floor, pulling in your stomach, and having your awareness at the top of the head, when you're doing all these things, and I want you to become the process so you can forget about the critical thinking mind and it can go to sleep. You want your body to go to sleep and just keep your mind awake, but the mind of an observer to be awake. You want that observer effect to do some magic for you, detached from the outcome, yet you're comfortable enough and you believe enough that it will happen. So now that's the critical thinking part. Very, very useful part, but when we're trying to create and when we want to stay conscious, we want to make sure that the critical thinking part is happening consciously. We don't want that to happen subconsciously, where you're just wondering all the time, dwelling over things. We don't want that. Okay, that's one part. I think we're going to come back to it, but we'll see. Now, what does that mean for ego? Now, ego is something that only generates and comes up in your life when something bad happens. When something negative happens, you have something in you, a coping mechanism in you, that gets activated immediately. If something bad happens, the coping mechanism, the negative, toxic form of coping mechanism, is ego. And what is the point? What is the point of ego? To protect you from blaming yourself, to protect you from you hurting yourself, essentially, of survival. So ego is scared that if you begin to blame yourself, you're going to hurt yourself, you're going to get yourself sick, and you might, I don't know, harm yourself in some way. And that weird toxic type of coping mechanism, ego, is all it cares about is your survival. So the moment, let's say you ask me out, okay, and or any person asks any person out, and the person that's being asked out says no, and immediately it hurts, right? Rejection hurts, and your ego wakes up and says, you know what? He or she is probably gay. I don't like this person anyway. I dodged a bullet. I saw so many red flags. What was I even thinking? Ha ha ha. I didn't want this person anyway. And then what do you do? What ego does is, in order to make you happy, to make you content so you don't hurt yourself and blame yourself and make yourself sick with just diseases and or harm yourself, all it cares about is to bring other people down, talk crap about other people, and it's a coping mechanism to protect you. Just like the ego will also tell you, what's wrong with being in a prison? They feed us, we have a bed, we live here rent free. We don't have to do anything. We don't even pay for the utilities, and they have a weekly. I'm thinking about Orange is the New Black show. I've seen a couple episodes of it, and I think they have these movie nights or something. My brother used to be a cop, so he used to tell me stories about prison, and he was like, "It's hell." But the reason I give that example is because ego is very comfortable in prison. Why? Because you are surviving. That is all it cares about. Your survival. Critical thinking is a tool that can get in the way of you going back into the pure consciousness, okay? So this one is easier to deal with. But this ego thing, releasing the analytical mind thing and just getting that out of the way is the easy step. The ego step is the hard part. Like there are people, Memory was talking about it yesterday or the day before. She said that she's been meditating and doing stuff on and off for at least a decade or so. And she said even now she will have these releases from her childhood and years and years ago. Why? Because your ego likes to keep ammo to make sure that the ego can use that ammo. If the ego can't find somebody else to blame in the current present moment, ego wants an arsenal of memories to dig into. Oh, this bad thing happened because your ex cheated on you 20 years ago. Remember? Of course you're hurting right now. Of course this is happening because of... So there's two different ways ego is hurting you. In the present moment, if there's anybody around you, the ego will try to bring them down so that it can take all the blame away from you and says, well, nothing's wrong with you. Everything's wrong with the world and everybody else. Why am I broke? Oh, yes. Sometimes you might ask yourself, why am I broke? Why can't I pay my bills? And your ego is going to be like, good question. Allow me to elaborate. Um, the weather was bad and you decided to not go to work and they fired you. The economy is bad and there's not enough jobs and I can't keep a job. They take too much taxes away from me, and my parents have money, but they won't lend me any, which is horrible. My brother is successful, and he doesn't care about my success because he's selfish, and that's why I'm broke. And then my kids uh, hurt my feelings, and they don't help me out around the house, so that takes away of my energy, and that way I can't work. I can't work as hard as I want to, and so on and on and on and on. Ego has endless amount of stuff, and I didn't even mention the fact that ego is going to be like, and remember that one time that thing happened to me, and remember that trauma thing that happened to me, and remember that, of course I'm broke. I'm broke because it's everybody's fault. It's everybody's fault. Everybody's crazy. It's the president's fault. It's that rich person's fault over there, that giant mansion over there. He's being selfish. He won't give me money. And that is when you accomplish the hard part, when you release the ego. You don't need it. You can think of it as the I am person, right? Not talking about affirmations, but when you say if I were to say I'm a guide, right? And I'm saying I'm a guide because I teach, I coach, I mentor, whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's say I say I'm a guide. Well, you can't find that out in x-rays. You can't do dissection on me and figure it out. It's not really, it's not in me. It's what I do in the hologram so that I can teach people how to play the game better, because I don't want to play the game better all by myself. I want to play the game better with everybody. And this is and the game for me is more interesting when I teach people how to play this game better, so we can all play the game better and we can have an explosive fun. So the analytical mind, which is a good tool, but it gets in the way when you're in the river, when you're crossing the river, when you're in this journey. But I would argue that analytical mind is easier to push out of the way because that's not the enemy. Analytical mind is very, very useful. When you come back into your life, you want to be able to stay conscious of your energies, of your low vibrational frequencies. You can do all of that using your analytical mind. So that's a friend. But it's a friend that you need to be able to have boundary with, so you can keep it away when you need to, take a deep breath in the middle of the day and just say, okay, let me ground myself, let me come back, let me do all of this. So it's a friend. Keep drinking water, guys. We're going to be doing breath work later. And then the coping mechanism of ego is useless because you could simply observe it. It doesn't matter what comes up, negative or positive. Pure acceptance of just watching it. Yeah, don't let it go through the gate and don't let it go into your subconscious mind. But when you observe it, don't resist it. Say change. Say I'm not good enough for this. Let's say I'm at the gate of my mind and I see this thing and I still smile at it, something negative, somebody upset me for a moment, and I smile at it. I'm not rejecting it. I'm like, no, but I'm like, yeah, but my mind and my castle is not good enough for you. But thanks for stopping by. just gently guide them away from your life. And you can use that with your awareness, your conscious mind, using your analytical skills, analytical mind. You can do those while you're awake, living in the world. But the moment you get upset and the ego starts talking, that's got to go. And when you get rid of the ego and you are always conscious, you're not going to sleep and you're not running on your programming, that's when your soul wakes up again. Some of you guys understand what I'm talking about, that your soul's been sleeping for too long. And the soul gets excited when you start on this journey. Soul's like, what are we up to? Is something new happening? I've been watching the same episode of Orange is the New Black for 10 years. Are we going to do something new? Yes, let's do it. And now the soul is awake. Think of it as the higher self. The higher self was just sitting around doing its own thing because you weren't interested in it. And now the higher self has its arms open. And it was waiting for you all this time. Get rid of the ego. Stay present. Keep your analytical mind as a friend and make sure that there's a little bit of a boundary so you can put it away when you want to become pure consciousness and you want to step outside of space and time. And guess what that does when you get comfortable doing this? When you get comfortable with this new game and the new controls and you understand what the game is all about, that the higher self will start working for you through you. Imagine that. You will start to feel like you are getting so much accomplished. Yet you're not tired. You're not stressed. You have more energy than ever. You're sleeping less. You're eating less. You feel healthy. You are not only healing yourself, you're healing other people. You are choosing your experiences. All of that, what? Why? Because you have now created space for the higher self to come through and assist you with the rest of the game. Seriously, how long do we have in this game anyway? It ends faster than we know. I've talked to a lot of people. I used to be a patient advocate in Carmano's Cancer Hospital in Detroit. And I used to go and sit with people that were dying alone from cancer in other areas, and they didn't have any family, so they were dying alone. And I would go and I would read them whatever they wanted me to read. Sometimes they were novels, sometimes they were Bibles, sometimes it was Quran, sometimes it was just news, and the business people wanted to read business stuff, and I would read it to them. And many, many, many times I would just be holding their hand, I would be reading the book or whatever, and they would pass away. I wanted them to not pass away thinking nobody cares. Because that wasn't true. I did. So I did that. I did that all of undergrad. I did that for 4 years. Whenever I had time, whenever I was off, afternoons, mornings, weekends, I would be in the cancer hospital holding people's hand as they died. And they didn't have anybody. There was a person, there was a boxer, old boxer. He was 98, 99. He was an old man. And he was talking to me about Muhammad Ali, and he used to box, and he knew all these old legends. I don't remember how old he was, but he said he could barely get up, but he wanted me to somehow stand up. He told me to stand up or help him stand up from the bed, and I still had to hold one of his hands because I was too scared that he's going to fall. And he's like, put that garbage can between us, okay? And he's like, okay, slowly let go of my arm. I think I got my balance. Okay. And he's like, now we're going to spin around this garbage can, and I'm going to teach you how to move when you box. And I was like, sir, I'm freaking out. You're gonna fall. And he passed away 2 days later. Like, we had a fun time, we had a fun time. And I would ask a lot of questions from these people, old people. What were their regrets? What would they tell me, the version of them that was this young? What would their advice be? And I did this for 4 years. And I did it because I was just so interested. I don't know. Something that drew me towards it, because I loved my grandfather so much. My grandfather fought in World War II in Burma. He was in the British Indian Army. I don't know why I said that story. I don't know what the point of it was. I think it just came out. Anyway, that's it, guys, about analytical mind, your soul, the higher self, how it can come out and how you can create space, and ego. Let me know what you think. Love you.